Assalamu alaikum. Hafiza Shamadeen, Dallas, Texas.
Alaikum salam. Dallas, Texas. Alaikum salam, New Jersey.
Mila Sugary from Watertown, Massachusetts. Like,
Thank you.
Horace Mahmoud, Springfield, Ohio, at Newer Islamic Center.
The money I gave you covered it.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Abdul Latif and Tawida Amin, Long Island, New York.
Maria Salas, Lytle, Texas. Only Allah knows best.
Alaikum salam, Texas.
Assalamu alaikum. Nassim Elamin, Fort Washington, Maryland.
Assalamu alaikum. Abdul Malik Rashid, all Georgia.
Alaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum, family. In Los Angeles.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Brother Yaakov Lud from Washington, D.C.
Assalamu alaikum. From Tobias in Wayne City, New Jersey.
Yeah, I'm going to get it. I'm trying to get the program.
Abdul Kawi, Washington, D.C.
So what?
Masjid Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum. Jolan Bilal, Atlanta, Georgia.
Assalamu alaikum, Prince Muhammad, Trenton, New Jersey.
Walaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum, Khalid Khan.
Walaikum assalam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Pamela, Masjid Wali Muhammad, Detroit.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Alaikum assalam.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Arnil, Washington, D.C. Nation's mom.
Assalamu alaikum. Camila Abdul Hakim.
Assalamu alaikum. Rashad of Birmingham, Alabama.
Salam, Alabama.
Plainfield, Nashville, New Jersey.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm actually in Meany, North Carolina.
Assalamu alaikum. Nadia Muhammad from South Carolina.
Assalamu alaikum. New Jersey, East.
Muted. The recording has started.
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. This is Aneesah Dawan. I'm calling or broadcasting live from Little Rock, Arkansas. Inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمد عبده ورسوله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأجمعين. We seek refuge with Allah from the rejected Satan with Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. All the praise is due to Allah. We ask that the prayers and the peace be upon Muhammad, upon his family, and upon us all. I greet you all once again with the peace and blessings of Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah. So we are here another Sunday for our Study Al-Islam series, and we cannot say enough that we thank Sister Fitra and all of her team, those who assist her in producing this each time. I know it's supposed to end many times, but Allah's work is never done. So, mashallah, the call keeps being answered. and me, myself, even some of the topics that are discussed that I'm appreciative because it's not always that you will research or discuss or go over certain topics unless someone asks you, right? And not that you haven't, and not that you don't have a certain level of knowledge, but study and knowing something by way of just hearing it or by way of time and just you being Muslim is a little bit different than deep study, right? So there's some things that you in general you say, okay, I think this is fitting with Quran and what I know of Quran, versus literally going in and studying Quran, studying the structure in the Arabic, studying the words, right? Understanding where those words are in other places in Quran, because that's where the Quran gives tafsir of itself and understanding in and of itself. So all of those things you don't necessarily do for every single topic, but when you're asked, things come out, right, that you may not have saw before your own self, and then definitely for any of us, despite how long we've been Muslim or what we've studied, there's always more. Allah's knowledge is infinite. We know this. Allah tells us in the Quran that it is, that we can't ever exhaust it. So, of course, that means that we are forever talibul ilm, that we are forever students of knowledge, inshallah. So today, the topic is Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah. And in the Quranic text, in the Quran, the under Lut, going to do the story of then, meaning we're going to go to the story, and okay, so we're going to look at it then to understand the story, the wisdom in the story, the symbolism in the story, and then we're going to relate that story to now. There are a few different places that this particular story is mentioned in the Quran, but we're just going to come from two. So we're going to come from Surah Al-Hud, right? And we're going to so go ahead and mark your Qur'ans if you are listening to study. Verses go to we're going to read from there, and then we're going to come and we're going to read from Surah Al-Shura. I'm going to be Surah 26. Allah does not. Subhanallah, right? To run into a situation in human life that the Quran does not address, that is a miraculous nature of the Quran, that these are things that you say, well, man, this is a different time, or this hasn't happened, or this isn't going on, and the internet wasn't here. But it doesn't matter, right? Allah addresses in the Quran the miraculous nature of the Quran that is all addressed. And one of the things that I'm always like, it weighs, Allah's magnitude weighs that I tell people, look, there is no issue in scripture or deals with the reality of homosexuality. Right? Allah literally is dealing with it. Now, as we read through the story, so let me move fast, is that the story in and of itself is that it's going to give wisdom to the reality of how we deal today. It literally is giving wisdom in how we deal today. It's not something that you're going to say, oh, that was then, and therefore now I need to do something different because times have changed. That's not how it works. Quran is timeless. Right? And if you see Quran in a time period and it in your thinking, it's the limitless idea of time, then you have to understand that your understanding of Quran is limited by your time. Okay, so if you see it in a frame and you say it's outdated, it's because your scope is tapped into Quran with the limit of your time frame. If you tap into Quran using Allah's logic and language, it becomes limitless. It becomes without a time frame. You see it and you see its capacity to cover all time and situations. So Allah mentions, right? I'm always Allah mentions homosexuality. It's not like this book is all of black and oh, you're going to get paradise. How with life in and of itself and all of its ease and all of its troubles. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do all of them. So I don't think I'm going to have time like just to read through, although there's so I'm going to read first out of 26 because it's the shorter of them, because this is where and then the other is the longer because it's dealing when and the dictate came, it came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by way of who's going to destroy this city, right, for its wrong. So here in 26, it's a little bit shorter, and this is where he's dealing with life, dealing with his people. So this is the warning. So coming from 26, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Says the people of Lot rejected the messenger. Said to them, Allah, right? Will you not be regardful of Allah? This is what Lut said. Let taqwa, right? Are you not going to have taqwa of Allah? Be regardful of Allah. I am to you a messenger worthy of trust. So be regard me. He says, no reward do I ask of you for it. My reward is only from the Lord of the worlds. Of all the creatures and lead those whom Allah has created for you to be your mates. No, you are people transgressing all limits. They say, if you desist not, O Lot, you will. They said, if you desist not, O Lot, we ask you out. He said, I do detest your doing. Oh, my Lord, deliver me and my family from such things as they do. So we delivered him and his family, all except an old woman who lingered behind. But the rest we destroyed utterly. We rained down on them a shower of brimstone, and evil was the shower of those who were admonished, but heeded not. Verily, this is a sign, but most of them do not believe. And verily, your Lord is he, the exalted and mighty, most merciful. So I look according to some of the teachings of Nabi Muhammad, and once again, that I would not have known, right, without that understanding of the symbolism. And this idea, we know that the human being is according to Quran, that the human being is constructed of clay, right? And we know by our teaching, just in general, that the human being constructed of clay, meaning that the human being is moldable, right? That's the whole idea. That is literally clay is a substance that has water in it, right? That spirituality in it that is allowing it to be moldable. That's what it is allowing. It's moving, the movement of clay, and that it sounds out, right? That the clay has a capacity to be hard, which is the baked clay. Is that it has the capacity to be hard, meaning lacking that sensitivity of human nature, and therefore becoming hard. And the only movement is that it would break versus being moldable. So we don't want to be hard clay, which is what was raining down on the people of Lot, as that their sensitivity or direction from Allah was lost, because this is what happened. He was calling, listen to what I'm telling you, and be mindful, be regardful of Allah. Without that regard, it is the punishment that comes to you is a punishment from your own self. Allah tells us this in Quran constantly, as that what punishments we receive They truly, Allah is allowing them, but they're coming from your own wrongdoing. The human being, even when we find ourselves in a situation and you say, I didn't do these things, how did I bring this? The human being, not just you, your whole human family is a part of that process. And that if you're not careful, is that you will have to reap some of what the human life is reaping because you're in this environment. So in the human life, and we talked about this early on in this series of Study al-Islam, is that when Adam was in the paradise, that Iblis, Satan, after this, right? Satan came to them and offered them a different clothing. And then when Allah came and saw them sowing the leaves and sowing themselves, he said, who told you you were naked, right? Who told you you were without clothing? That the layer of skin that was covering you was sufficient, meaning that Imam Muhammad explained that the skin is representing the human sensitivity. The human sensitivities, when they are structured with Allah's knowledge, that their sensitivities are right. But when the human being is influenced by another knowledge, then their sensitivities become wrong. And that sensitivity, it created in Adam the situation where they thought their sensitivities were no longer in the proper proportion. Therefore, they began to get other things to close their sensitivity. So when it comes to us, right, and looking at this idea of homosexuality, we have to be conscious of that reality of our sensitivity. Our sensitivities has to be fixed in the logic of Quran and what Allah is offering us to understand it, and not in the sensitivities of this world and what it says of how we should be responding. So I don't want to get too much into then. Let me go into now, because I really have to get to this other piece. So let's go now to 11. So Surah 11, 69. Starting at 69. So this is where inside the visitors came to understand that it said that Lot was his nephew. It's within the most older. This is the habit when guests came on in 71. So this back tidings of Isaac, and after him of Jacob. This is where it's going to bear a child. So this is clearly before that, but clearly when they're older. So then it goes on, and so they said, do you wonder at Allah's decree, the grace of Allah and his blessings on you, O you people of the house, for he is indeed worthy of all praise, full of all glory. When fear had passed from the mind of Ibrahim and the glad tidings had reached him, he began to plead with us for Lot's people. This is Abraham. For Abraham was without doubt forbearing of faults. He was compassionate in giving to look to Allah. O Abraham, do not seek us. Seek not this decree of your Lord has gone forth. He says, don't ask for that. He says, for them comes a penalty that cannot be turned back. When our messengers came to Lot, he was grieved on their account and felt himself powerless to protect them. He said, this is a distressful day. And his people came rushing towards him, and they had been long in the habit of practicing abominations. O my people, here are my daughters. They are pure for you if you marry. Now be regardful of Allah. Cover me not with shame about my guests. He says, is there not among you a single right-minded man? Literally, it says Rajulun Rashid. Rajulun Rashid. Literally, right? A Rajul who is Rashid. He said, well, you know, we have no need of your daughters. He says, indeed, you know quite well what we want. He said, with what I had power to suppress you, or that I could betake myself to some powerful support. MashaAllah. So the messengers from your Lord, by no means shall they reach you. Now travel with your family while yet a part of the night remains, and let not any of you look back, but your wife will remain behind. To her will happen what happens to the people. Morning is their time appointed, is not the morning nigh. When our decree issued, we turned the cities upside down and rained down on them brimstones hard as baked clay, spread layer on layer, marked as from your Lord, forever for from those who do wrong. Okay, alhamdulillah. So, in the story, there are a few things, right, that we want to be mindful of, because we want to see this reality, right, and see ourselves in this reality. One, both Abraham and Lot were grieved at the thought and the reality and the understanding that Lot's people were going to be destroyed, even if it was by their own doing. Even though in the Quran, Allah is explaining that they had been long practicing this abomination. This wasn't something that was new. It's not something that Lot said, oh man, they just fell into it, so I'm really feeling bad for them. They had long been doing this thing. And they were still of the nature to say, please give us more time to give them wisdom and guidance and see if they can understand the reality of their situation. It was not Lot or Abraham punishing them. Seek to punish them. They didn't seek out punishment for them. They sought out mercy and wisdom and understanding and time to understand their situation and to look a different way. They even went so far as to offer their own daughters to say, don't do this. As we mentioned, in the understanding of the clay becoming hard sensitivities, of homosexuality, and not understanding the proper mate is not even sex and sexuality is not about this big physical reality as much as it is mating. It truly is about mating. Mating naturally happens in the physical makeup between men and women to produce life. The proper mates produce life. So improper mates is a production of death. It's the perpetuation of death. It's the perpetuation of loss of life. It's not a continuation of life. So it's saying for your own life, in order for you to actually live and move forward and produce in the world, you have to have the proper mate. So even in the discussion of it, they're saying choose the proper mate if you choose to marry. It is to be, so I don't want to jump in. In looking at the wife of Lot, Imam Muhammad explained, he said, when she looked back, he said there are two reasons why someone would look back. And this is what we say. And I'm going to tell you, me naturally, I was thinking that Lot's wife this whole time that she was looking back because her sensitivity was saying, oh, mashallah, don't do that to them. No, I want to save them, or oh no, I wanted to be with them. And now when I think about it and I'm listening, I'm saying, you know what? This is right, because both Ibrahim and Lot had the sensitivity that they did not want them punished. Both of them had that sensitivity that they were grieved with their punishment.
So if her reason for looking back was grief, then they ideally would have looked back in the same grief. But the commandment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was to not look back. And Imam Muhammad explained, he said, the reason for looking back is going to be one of two. He said, either because you're sensitive and you're actually with that group of people, you're with them in their doing. He said, or you are liking their punishment, that you're happy that they're being punished. And you're looking back so you can see, because you're so caught up in their sin and their wrong that you're saying, yes, that's what they get, and you want to see the punishment. And he explained, he said, this was the situation of Lot's wife. She was not looking back because her sensitivity was grieving for them. She was looking back because she was happy they were being punished. And she had become like salt. This is the pillar of salt. That she had become as the salt, this thing that lacks the sensitivity of the human nature that it should naturally have, the moral stance that it should naturally have, that you actually don't want to see people punished. And think if someone that you love was reaping a horrendous punishment, even in the movies, when they image a person and their one is murdered in front of their eyes, the natural human inclination is to call. I'm saying that's the human see people get that level of gruesome punishment. When the nature moves to that level, they become, when you love looking at people, when you say that their sins, you're dwelling on their sins so much that they should be punished, and you revel in their punishment, then you will get the same punishment as them. MashaAllah. So this is the situation that Lot's wife was in. So let's go to now. We only have 8 minutes. Ayat, the signs that were given by Allah that we read first in 26. The people of Lot are calling them to a reality, which means that we still have to call to that reality, is that threatened him, right? He says, if you don't desist, Lot, we will cast you out. So it's literally saying, if you don't stop what you're saying, telling us that makes for us to transgress, it should be that we're going to throw you out. This is what we're and Lot says, oh my Lord, deliver me and my family, right? He's saying that he said, I don't even have the capacity or the wherewithal necessary to deal with some of what they're offering. And so this is where you have today, because this realities are today, is that if you attempt of a reality that homosexuality is not the best and proper method for the human being to produce life, right? And offer any reality other than that, they will ostracize you. They will say you don't belong in this industry. You can't do this. But here's the reality: is that Allah explains to us. He said, if you find any, if in the story of Jonah, because this is what's happening, right? Is that in that story when he's telling that if you find any one good person in the city, if you can find me one good moral person who's standing up on their moral reality, who is holding to that moral truth, and they're holding that ground, he said, I won't necessarily have to destroy the whole group. Or in the situation of Lot, I'm going to take those good people, I'm going to take them out of that reality, but please know that this other thing will be destroyed. Not because the thing is being destroyed necessarily by a punishment of me, by nature of them punishing their own reality. So we cannot in the United States of America or anywhere in the world, we cannot move from a reality of moral stance by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can't fall into a reality and say, I'm not going to say that, I can't say homosexuality is wrong. I can't say, I have to say that, well, you know, it's this. I can say that my human sensitivity does not want people to punish you because of it. You have no right in Al-Islam to harm someone who is homosexual and that lifestyle is with them, and that there is some type of law that we can say that we have in Al-Islam that comes in. Now, when people are saying that they are following Al-Islam and they do things that are contrary to Al-Islam, then the person who says they believe in Al-Islam, they are under a certain mode of conduct. But the people who this is their reality, they're not saying that this. I'm not Muslim. I am of this group of people. We don't have a ruling that comes in and destroys that group of people under the people, under the idea of a person. That this isn't what happened. If they were existing over a long period of time doing that thing, that means that there was no ruling that could come down and say, and even Abraham and Lot didn't want that punishment. They were constantly seeking to give guidance, but they were not moving away from it. They were not easing their guidance because they wanted to ease it to the people. They gave the guidance as it was until the end, and in the end, their own moral, the whole thing will fall, not under a situation where, oh, Allah said, it will truly be from the own lack of morality. It is a dark, winding situation that you will find yourself in when you sit and you say that homosexuality is okay. So when you go and now you look at the idea of Lot's wife, is that we also can't go to that realm. I can't be so caught in the idea of homosexuality as such a great sin that it hardens my own human sensitivity, that I can't talk to them, that I can't be kind, that I can't sit and I can't. I'm saying here that's not how Allah presents it in the Quran. That's not what Allah presents. Allah presents a reality that if in the proper human sensitivity, when you're in your right human nature, your right human nature wants all people to get to a point of righteousness, and you don't want to see people punished. That's the whole reason of why you're giving the information. I'm not giving you the understanding of your proper mate because I think you're so sinful and I think it's just such a great abomination that I can't stand to look at you. That's not. When you get so hard in your own righteousness that you become like that baked clay, that in and of itself is a sin. We cannot be hardened with righteousness, that you are reveling in people's punishment because you're saying that's what they get. That is not, dear believers, that is not the spirit of a Muslim. That is not the spirit of Ibrahim and Lot. That was not their movement. Their movement was to be sensitive according to Allah's sensitivity for the human life. And when the directive came for them to leave and to not look back, they are obedient. Sami'na wa ata'na. Because once again, we don't choose when people will receive the harm or the actions. So, inshallah, I pray that the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, that it gives us wisdom in how we deal now, right? And what we say is allowable, right? What's not allowable. Even the state allowing, quote unquote, marriages for a homosexual person It does not change the moral state for Muslims. It doesn't change that. There is no way for me to legitimize marriage under Al-Islam for homosexuals. The state can do one thing, but it doesn't change the religious life. And I remember Imam Muhammad, he said one time, he said, we have to rely on religious people to give moral reality. It is our responsibility to keep the moral reality. It is reality. And law will guide. But once again, this is something that has been there, and we have to understand the reality of how we operate with it. Inshallah, that has been beneficial for everyone, and that you are able to take it and utilize it in your life, and it gives you great wisdom. Anything that gives you great wisdom, or that you lack the understanding, or that it was not clear, may Allah make it clear for us and give us increase in knowledge. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Sister Aneesah. Sister Aneesah?
Yes, ma'am.
Assalamu
ma'am.
alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. You know, we greatly appreciate your spirit and scholar. You always make us reach deeper. I just want to ask you one question, because the way that you presented this, I mean, we all have, I have neighbors on my street that are homosexual, and they're so kind to me, and I don't struggle with being decent towards them, though I don't condone or condemn than the way you've explained it. But I want to, because the way you explain I mean, down people have destroyed all of that. Well, what about the teachers, those who will hear you? What about those people? Isn't that correct? Isn't this similar?
Exactly. Yes. It is. So, and here's the thing: is that I think where we have to actually pick up the banner a little bit more is that although we don't condone, I'm saying this to my own self. I want everybody to know I'm not just saying this. I'm literally saying it to my own self too. Although we, as we know the reality, we accept the reality, and people know the reality that we do not accept homosexuality as a way for fruitful life. However, how many times are we actually encouraging the people and helping the people to understand that in our movements, right, with them? So that is where we are not actually, like, we don't have a big front to sit down and discuss homosexuality with homosexuals.
Right.
We don't have a big movement to really pull the people to an understanding and a reality, right? And not in condemning them, truly in an effort to help, right? True, because and for me, I know that there is even greater study on understanding gender versus sex. Even according to Quran, if you deal with the muzakkir and the untha versus the rijal wa nisa. A rijal wa nisa is a man and a woman, right? In its physical reality. Muzakkir and untha are principal realities. They're principal realities of masculine and feminine. Masculine and feminine principles exist within the human life individually. In my own self, I have both muzakkir and mu'annath. I have both masculine and feminine principles. Well, helping and for us to understand what is the difference between the principle of muzakkar and mu'annath versus the physical reality of a male and a female, it helps to give people some wisdom on what's going on in their own psyche. And in that, knowing that all of it is still a part of choice. So there's some things that are being pushed in our reality right now that although we also don't give any pushback to that reality, and we have to. We can't allow the language to exist and for the people to think that we're like, yes, we love, we're kind, all of those things, but we still need you to understand this is how this reality looks. And this is what you should be seeking in that reality. And even for us, it may take you, it may take us individually sitting down and really going through Quran and having an understanding for our own selves on how to communicate to people why that why there is a purpose for a mate. That the whole point of the human life is for mating, not for sex. Sex and mating are two different things. Right? And some of it is having those conversations and forums that we put out there because people are hurting. People actually don't fully understand. I'm saying I've talked to enough people, and I remember sitting down talking in school to someone who's homosexual, a young lady. And I mean, I was having serious conversation. I'm sitting down, I'm talking to her and just going through certain things. I know sitting down talking to some people who they thought they were homosexual, they went through certain situations, and then they came out on the other side of that and they said, you know what? That's actually not. I was going through so many mental things. There's so many, the people are going through situations now where they're even taking young people through sex changes. Young people who haven't even gone through puberty. That's a big issue. So I'm saying we have to be more vocal in giving wisdom to these things and not just accepting the reality of, no, I'm not going to be this kind to you, but I do have to give you the fullness of the truth.
And I think what is really important in what you have shared with us today, for those who may not have the ability to communicate what you just said, at the same time, we don't want our hearts to become hardened towards people because of their circumstances. I think that's really important for the lay person who, like myself and others who come in contact with people every day who may not have the ability to communicate like you have just communicated. At the same time, we don't want to get into a situation like Moses, where he actually asked Allah to destroy the people, destroy them. And Allah said, no, just keep telling them what I've taught you. And so I think that's very important. And I think what you've done is you've relieved a lot of people of having that conflict of should I be mean? Should I be standoffish? And I think that's really important.
Should I deny them employment? Should I deny them housing? Those are things, and so that's what I'm saying. This is now, we as Muslims are not in a situation where we are saying that people who are homosexual should be not denied employment, that they should be denied housing, that they should be denied education, that they should be denied certain realities. But we also are in a situation that inside of that, and for the lay person, because I hear you, right, in speaking on that, Sister Fitra, is that for the lay Muslim, is very different than the lay person in general, meaning that our faith is action. Our faith is action. So knowing that you should not be hardening yourselves to that reality, that's going to require some action from you to show that, guess what, I'm not hardening myself. Because inside of the actions for Ibrahim and Lot, they had actions to deal with that. They were talking to them. They were dealing with them. They were offering them, come in and join us to eat, but let's not do this. So even in your simple understanding, you should know that kindness is the rule, and knowledge and whatever you know has to be shared, if that makes sense. So it's not for you to know a lot, it's not for you to say, it's for you to literally be bold enough to be kind and to say what you know.
We really appreciate that, because the question posed to all of the speakers was, what today that those uh, found themselves guilty of, or and what you have shared with us, and even what Imam Wazir shared with us last week, is don't become so self-righteous and hard-hearted.
Yes.
That you
Yes.
cannot relate to God's creation and understand and help in some way without becoming a victim of it yourself.
Yes. And if you can understand, so in this story, if you go with kindness and talking to people, it's true concern. This was true concern that Abraham and Lot had. That wasn't false concern. That wasn't self-righteous, indignated concern. So if you're going to talk to people and you have in your voice an indignation and a disgust with their sin, then you have to understand you probably are in the position of Lot's wife. But if you're going and your concern is that of Lot and that of Ibrahim, then they're going to keep talking to you. The conversation is going to be easy. The conversation is going to be the loving. The conversation is going to be of help and of concern and not of indignation and judgment. So it's true. And once again, this is a process. So that's not something you're like, all right, I heard that. Now let me go. If you've been dealing in the indignation and the sin and oh my goodness, this is just so horrible, then that means you first have to work on that reality, and then you'll be able to get to that other one, right? If you're in a situation and you found that ease to actually work to yourself and deal with the reality of really having some heartfelt conversations with those who are kind and good, and some of it is just alita arifu. So on the artifact, the reason that artifact is so important is Allah, when He talks about all the people created and how they're different tribes and nations, and He did this so you can get to know one another. One thing in really helping people is to seek to understand. So if that may be the first step inside of the process, is to seek to understand what's going on with people, the logic, the understanding, the mind, and then you're able to give the logic and the understanding of Quran to help them understand their own selves even better. And once again, I can't say enough, the average believer in Al-Islam has the capacity to do that. I don't want you all to think that it's whatever knowledge that you have, Allah has given it to you, and this is why Allah tells us to go out equipped heavily or lightly, because once again, it is Allah who will decide if they are guided or not. It's Allah who decides if the punishment is received or not. It is not our decision. So when you remove yourself from that part of the reality, then it eases what you give, because you know I can only give what Allah allows.
That is, you're right. It is a process, and while you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, it's a balance. I remember you speaking about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives everything in pairs. It's the ability to be who you are, and at the same time understand this is another person.
Yes.
It's that ability to not have the two conflict. It is, to remain true to as being a believer and upholding what you know that you should uphold for yourself, but at the same time recognizing that this is another human being that is I remember Imam Muhammad saying that, people are on different levels, and you have to remember that.
Yes.
Yeah,
yep.
It's not easy. It's not easy.
Yes.
But
go with
we'll
care and
keep
concern.
Trying. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Go with care and concern. Go with compassion and mercy, and lead with those things. And Allah guides you, inshallah.
I mean, thank you so very much. I just want to announce before every two guests with us here, they're here to thank you and to give you an update on the donations that we have been um, supporting. But I did want to give them the opportunity to come on to know where the money that you're donating is going. And I think transparency is really important since we're going to have these situations where we're going to continue to donate. Sister Agnes, are you with us?
Yes, and thank you so much, Sister Fitra. And assalamu alaikum to all your sisters and brothers that are listening today. And to thank Sister for allowing me to thank you at this time. But we all know that first and foremost, all praise and glory belongs to Allah, who is constant in his grace and mercy to us, whom we always should humbly turn to. And again, let me thank the believing heart and touch upon their hearts who took the time to donate funds to our 3 masjids and in New Orleans. And we experienced this Hurricane Ida, which had some devastating effects on August 29th, just so happened to have been the anniversary of Hurricane Katrina that was broadcast all over the world. And with that, we humbly thank you for your donations. And the 3 masjids that benefited are New Orleans Masjid of Al-Islam at 2700 Magnolia Street under the leadership of Imam Adel Raouf, Masjid Rahim at 1238 Johnson under the leadership of Imam Rafiq Numan, and Masjid Bilal at 1401 Tech Street under the leadership of Imam Salim Rashid. Again, thank you, and may everyone have a blessed day and enjoy the rest of the evening.
I do want to point out that there are 3 imams there are 3 masjids in New Orleans, and all 3 of these imams are working harmoniously. We are so grateful and appreciative to hear that kind of good news. Now, I did, Sister Agnes, I did speak with Imam. Sister Agnes, first of all, is the wife of Imam Salim Rashid of Masjid Bilal. Now, Imam Wali Raouf is receiving all the donations for the 3 masjids. And he, along with Imam Salim Rashid, are longtime pioneers in this community. And I spoke with several of our speakers on Study Al-Islam who spoke very highly of these imams, all 3 of these imams. And so I know when I asked Imam Wali if I could speak with you, Sister Agnes, I'd like to hear the voices of the mothers in these communities. I know that here in Washington, D.C., we have Sister Tahira, who is Imam Talib's wife. She works very closely with our seniors, and our former Imam Yusuf Salim, his wife, Sister Mariam. And when I felt very reassured that our seniors are being looked after when I spoke with you. So I want to just update the community in the next 2 minutes. The goal is to provide each thing. There's at least 25 senior families in each of these masjids. They're small communities, but they're in different sections of town. Isn't that correct, Sister Agnes?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and so the goal is to provide each family a small donation of $100. There are approximately 25, like I said, senior families in each masjid, totaling 75. Now, we have more than 400 people on this line today. When we give collectively, the financial responsibility is not a hardship on any one person, inshallah. So I'm asking everyone on this line, because they only raised $1,400. I'm asking everyone on the line today to go to the Study Al-Islam newsletter, where you can find the information to donate. If everyone gives at least a minimum of $10, And those who can give more, for those who cannot give more, we can meet our collective responsibility to show our seniors that we love them. And this is a senior community. One of the things I want to share, is that correct, Sister Agnes? This is a senior community.
Absolutely correct.
So $100 for each of our seniors' families. This is not each person, but our families. We want to show them that. I just want to share that when my mother was passing, the most important message that I wanted her to know was that she was not alone. We want our seniors to know. We want Sister Agnes to be able to go back and tell our seniors that the $100 that she is sharing with us is from the community that loves her. And we know Sister Agnes will do that. Isn't that correct, Sister Agnes?
Definitely will, yes, because I have to answer to Allah.
Alhamdulillah. We thank you, Sister Agnes. And
we thank you.
And we thank all the believers on the line that gave. So if we could just go to Study Al-Islam newsletter, the information is there where you can donate. And if we just donate what we can, we could give each one of these families at least $100. Sister Agnes, please have the last word for the listeners.
Again, we thank everyone, all the believers, for your efforts. And whatever Allah inspires on your heart, and that is also a part of our deen, that we give, to charities, zakat, and that Allah would definitely smile upon us. And it is definitely a message and word of Allah that these are some of the things that get us to the paradise. But we thank you for whatever efforts and whatever you find in your heart and your pockets to donate. Thank you so much.
No, we thank you. We thank you. Wa alaikum salam. Now, our next speaker is from North Carolina. She wants to just let you know how much was raised at Share a Story and let you know what they intend to do with this money. I think it's important that we know that we are supporting good causes. And do we have Sister Masala on the line?
Yes. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Fitra.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yes.
Please
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, dear believers and Study Al-Islam participants. Again, much gratitude to our fundraiser host, Preacher Moss, Sister Fitra Muhammad, who helped us organize and coordinate this event, Sister Naima Muhammad, Sister Coffee, Dr. Nuruddin, and all the storytellers who made this event possible. Being good stewards, like Sister Fitra said, it's important that we share our current financial position. So I'd like to share with you this property owned by our community, I mean those following the tafsir of Imam W.G. Muhammad, is assessed at $1.7 million. It has two mortgages totaling $135,000. One mortgage, which is the one that we did the fundraiser for to pay off, is with the Methodist Church, the Western District. It has a balance of about $50,000, and the balloon payment of that $50,000 is due by November 1st, 2021. Through the efforts that we put forth and through your generous donations, we've raised $29,912.39. Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. We're almost there. Thank you also to our Imam, Dr. Nuruddin, who's getting new carpet donated for us from a group for our musalla that's worth approximately $10,000. It's going to make that musalla look so beautiful. I want to say you've answered the call, and we thank you with all our heart as we all continue to buy structures for the pledge of Allah And when all is said and done, and the story is told about our community, the community of Imam Muhammad, that our children will know that we did our best to give Imam Muhammad a good life and to also give them a start to continue to grow and grow and grow in these United States of America and throughout the world. Again, thank you, dear believers. We've done a wonderful job here, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate you. We can't tell you enough how much we appreciate you. And thank you, Sister Fitra, for giving us this opportunity to share this information.
Listen, let me say this to you. I remember the words of Brother Jabber, may he be in the highest place in paradise. I used to, when I worked for him, the believers would meet him on Friday at the masjid to ask for money. And I used to say, Brother Jabber, why do you continue to give people money that give you the same story every week? I'm getting put out my house, my children, a sob story. And he said, Sister Fitra, my money can either take me to paradise or it can take me to hell. He said, but one thing is for sure, we're not going to take any of this money with us. So I want to just say to everyone who's listening, next week we have Imam Asim Sharif from San Antonio, Texas. And after Imam Asim speaks, I have invited Dr. Ramadan to provide some guidance regarding the booster. So if you have any questions about the vaccine or the booster, please send them to studyalislam@gmail.com, because Dr. Ramadan has agreed to be with us next week after Imam Asim speaks to update us and to answer your questions about the booster, about the vaccine, because we can't have enough questions about this vaccine because we're still in a pandemic. And so until next week, I just want to remind you the information for donating to New Orleans and to Greensboro is in the Study Al-Islam newsletter. We want to be there for each other. We want to thank Allah for each other. I don't know where I would be without this community. I know I'm speaking for many of you. I love you. Until next week, inshallah, your sister and friend, Fitra Muhammad.